Hi there, welcome to the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery. My name's Veronica and this is Kate.
Hi everybody.
And we're from the Public Programs and Learning team here at TMAG. To start today's tour, we're going to start with an acknowledgement of country.
Thanks Veronica. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and pay respect to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, the First Nations community of Lutruwita, Tasmania, this island, as the traditional owners and continual custodians of this land. We are here on Muirnina land. Because of the history of what happened here, there are no Muirnina people or their descendants left, but the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, the First Nations community, is still very strong in Lutruwita, Tasmania, and I acknowledge and pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Thanks Veronica.
So today's tour is a school holiday special. So we are upstairs in the This Too Shall Pass exhibition. We're going to talk to you about some of the portraits featured in this exhibition, and then we're going to follow with a making activity. So hopefully you've gathered some things from around the house so you can join us. So this is a recently hung exhibition. It features over 100 works. And they're all from the Tasmanian Museum and Art Gallery collection, so the state collection. The curator, Mary Knights, has organised the exhibition to have two distinct different walls, one featuring portraits and the other featuring still lifes. Now she's chosen to hang this exhibition in a very interesting way. What do you think of the hang, Kate?
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out because it can be unusual to see so many paintings hung together. And I was wondering if there was a special name for this kind of hang in an exhibition?
Yeah, so this is called a salon hang, and essentially it is to maximise the amount of artworks that you can get on a wall. Traditionally in an art gallery you might see artworks hung in a more linear style, so with lots of space between them and all at eye level so that you can really stop and appreciate the works. But this also has a really visually appealing, it is visually appealing.
It is, it's fantastic to come into this gallery and see so many works. Yeah.
So should we go over and talk about some of the portraits?
I'd love to.
Great.
Let's do it.
So these portraits fall into two main categories. A portrait, which is a work painted by an artist of a subject, of a person, also known as the sitter. So often the artist will have somebody sitting in front of them and they will paint. So this work here is a portrait. This is done by Jack Carrington Smith and it is of his wife.
This one?
Yeah, this one right here. And you can see she's got a bit of a strange expression on her face. What do you think's going on here?
It is interesting, isn't it? Because she's holding her hand up to her face, which makes me think that she might be thinking about something or she might be having a conversation. Her mouth is slightly open as well, which might mean that she's talking. She seems quite relaxed, sitting down. I like the soft colours that are used in this portrait.
Yeah, I think she's a little bit slumped. Maybe she's been sitting for a very long time whilst her husband paints the portrait of her. Maybe this isn't the first time she's had to sit for a portrait painting.
Sorry, Veronica.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that have you ever sat for a portrait? Have you ever had your portrait painted?
I haven't, no. Have you, Kate?
I have. And it was quite a while ago now. But it's actually not that easy sitting for a portrait. You have to, well in my situation, I had to sit for quite a long time and the artist painting my portrait didn't really want to engage in much conversation, so you just have to go into a very calm space and stay very still. So it was a very interesting experience, so I do know what it can be like for people.
So the other type of portrait we've got in this gallery is a self-portrait. So this is a portrait painted of an artist, by an artist. This one is by Nora Hazen, and you can see here, she's obviously peering out at the viewer, but I have a theory that maybe she's peering into a mirror, and maybe she's looking at herself in the mirror whilst also completing her sketches for this painting on her clipboard.
Yes, there's certainly lots of things in the portrait to show that she's an artist. There's the brushes down here in the corner and the artist's materials, and as you said, she's obviously doing something. I find the way she's looking sideways, she's looking at me actually, interesting. It's almost as if we've walked into the room and she's going, hello. Yeah. And interestingly, the Jack Carrington Smith portrait there, she's also looking slightly to the side.
Yeah.
So eyes can make a big difference, can't they, in a portrait?
Yeah, and the difference between the mouths, the open mouth, the closed mouth, and her eyebrow in the Nora Hayson portrait, just slightly ticked up really changes the way you feel quite unwelcome in her space, don't you?
Yeah, you could do, yes.
Yeah. So portraits might be painted for a range of reasons. You might have somebody painting a portrait on commission, if you were especially in history, if you were an important person. There was no photography, so you would go to an artist and you would ask them to paint you, but of course the artist has a bit of what we call artistic license and can change the way you look a little bit, so they might make you look more powerful and flatter you. Maybe you'd like a bit of a nose job in your portrait. And then there are artists who would use muses, their lovers, their family, their friends, and often if they're painting them, they might be doing it in a bit more of a sympathetic way. Knowing somebody, you're able to capture their essence a bit more through paint. And you can do this in colour, in brush strokes, and we can see very different brush strokes between these two paintings with this more impressionist style.
Oh yes.
Whilst the other's a bit more realistic.
Are there any other paintings that catch your eye in this gallery?
Yeah, this one up here, right up above, it's really interesting. I mean, he looks like he's somebody important.
Yes, he does.
But he's got this very strange look on his face. And to me, he looks like he's a bit cheeky. Like he's just had a laugh and now he's trying to hold his smile in. There's a bit of a sparkle in his eyes.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think you're right. He definitely looks like he's slightly smiling. But he also, I think, might come from a different time to these other portraits that we've looked at. So that he looks like, from his clothing, that he might have come from a long time ago. Do you know how long ago this portrait was painted?
I do, yeah. It was painted in 1835. So it's almost 200 years old, which is incredible because it's still very vibrant.
Yes, it is. It's still
and
got
it has a beautiful glossy texture over the top as well.
Yeah, and a beautiful frame as well.
A beautiful frame, yeah.
It looks like a hue and pine frame, doesn't it? Yeah.
Which, yeah, of course, and on this wall you can see there are a range of different frames, and the frame used obviously alludes to the importance of the person or the importance of the painting. And you can see these beautiful gold decorative frames, or just a nice simple wooden frame here.
Are there any other portraits in this gallery that aren't actually painted?
Yes.
Veronica?
So most of them are painted, except for these two contemporary works by Sally Rees. So we've got one here and one over the other end of the wall. So Sally Rees is an artist living and working in Hobart at the moment, and this sort of a painted portrait because the process that she uses is she films her work, prints out the stills, and actually paints by hand onto her stills before sewing the images back together into a video. And now we've got a painted portrait, a moving painted portrait on a screen that actually makes a little bit of a noise sometimes as well. Yeah.
Interesting. It looks like it's just finished.
Yeah.
And it can start again, so it has a life, doesn't it, almost?
Yeah.
In that way, that it starts and then it finishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's great.
Is there anything else we'd like to point out, or should we go and have a look at, getting on with sort of making our own portraits?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that?
it's time to go and make some of our own portraits.
Okay,
yeah.
let's do it.
Let's come over here. So we've had some fun gathering lots of household sort of items, lots of bits and bobs from around. I've got some straws, I've got some spoons, balloons, a battery. What have you got in yours, Kate?
I've got some similar things, some different corks. They're quite interesting. I've got a feather here. I've got some stones, some buttons, some clothes pegs, a couple of dice, all sorts of things. So I'm looking for some shells. If we weren't in the gallery, I would have probably got some things from outside, like leaves and all sorts of different things that you can use. But because we can't bring those sorts of things into the gallery in case they've got bugs and things, then I haven't got those here. But if you're at home, you can use those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And they can make some fantastic portraits.
Yeah.
So are we going to do a self-portrait or
Well, I think it's up to you. I'm going to do a self-portrait.
Okay.
I'm going to try and find some things that I think are representative of me and capture my essence. What are you going to do?
I think I might just do a sort of an anonymous portrait.
Okay.
I just want to play with the materials we've got and see what happens.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
So let's start.
All right. Well, I've got this piece of felt, just happens to be in an oval shape, that I'm going to use as the base for my face.
I'm going to be a bit different, and I'm going to use something that can move as this sort of the face shape, if that makes sense. So got a sort of chin here. I don't know, I might move it around as we go and see how a face shape changes in expression.
Yeah, and you can even do, like, some of the portraits on the wall here are forward facing, and some of them are facing the sides. They're profile view.
Yes.
Or you could have a little nook for where the nose is to
the
look
nose
at the outline of the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this chain's quite handy, actually.
Yeah, great. I've got these pretty flowers that I cut out from some postcards that I'm going to use for my eyes. I'm going to place them about here, do you think, Kate?
Yeah, so let me look at your face, Veronica. So eyes, you might think that eyes are sort of near the top of your face, but they're not actually. They're about, what would you say, about halfway down?
I think halfway down.
Yeah. So you've got a forehead, of course, above that,
and
then you've got some hair.
Yeah. And luckily, I've got this beautiful, crazy yarn here that I'm going to use for my bright and colourful hair. Yeah. Place that around there. That's great. Are you going to have hair on yours, Kate?
I might. I'm gonna. Let me have a look. I don't want to use wool like you. I'm going to use something different. So I'm going to try a feather as to sort of indicate hair.
Okay.
So it's not really, just to sort of represent hair.
It's a
maybe.
little fringe.
I'll see how it goes. See how it goes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Great. Now I'm going to use some cotton wool buds as the whites of my eyes down here, and I've got some magnets. I think I'll use those as the pupils. I suppose I could...
The pupils, they're the little bits in
Yeah.
they can really change the way you look.
So I could change them so that they're facing down here. I could be looking up. I could be just staring straight ahead. I could be doing something silly like going cross-eyed.
One of the portraits that we looked at, or two of the portraits we looked at, had people looking to the side.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try. I've got a couple of dice here. I think I've got a couple of dice. There it is. Or I could use these little dice, the pupils, or I could use these headphones, bits of headphones that I've found from my son. And I'm going to use a couple of pebbles to make some very large, very solid eyes. Oh, that looks a bit spooky without any eyes in it. So I'm going to just sort of play a bit here and see.
Wow, it really makes the eyes look wide open, don't they?
Yes, and,
Yeah.
and I'm looking to the side.
Yeah.
I wonder what happens if I pop them in the middle. Is that? Oh yes, looking straight at you that way. Yeah. I quite like the ones to the side.
I like the ones to
portrait.
the side as well.
You know something we are missing, which is, and you mentioned it with the Nora Heisen portrait,
Yeah.
is eyebrows.
The eyebrows, yeah. Let's see, what have we got for eyebrows? Oh, what are these things called, Kate?
Split pins.
Split pins. All right, I think they're really great eyebrows. And I've got 2 different sizes. That's all right. So maybe I could put my eyebrows down here and make me look very angry. Or I could put them back here and look very worried and surprised, maybe.
You don't tend to look very angry, Veronica, if it's a self-portrait.
Oh, okay,
no.
right.
So,
okay, so maybe just a little bit worried. What are you going to do with your eyebrows?
Well, I've just found these clothes pegs, and I don't know, there's something about clothes pegs. They can do so many things. So I'm going to actually move my eyes a bit further down, and I'm going to, I hope no one laughs at my eyebrows. So that's one way of doing eyebrows, isn't it?
That's great.
Definitely looking a bit worried.
Yeah,
You're saying eyebrows.
We've got a bit of a worried thing going on with our
both
portraits.
went.
Oh.
That's getting a bit cross look. Might just put them straight over and see how that ends up. That's the fun thing with this. You can just keep changing it.
You could just keep playing, yeah. Although I do think something that's really important is the mouth. And
yes.
All the portraits on these walls, almost all of them have a closed mouth, I've noticed, except for maybe the one behind me and also the Jack Carrington Smith that we looked at.
Yes, that one definitely looks, again, a bit like the Jack Carrington Smith portrait. It almost looks like there's a question. Happening if your mouth is slightly open. So what are you going to use for
I'm
your
using
mouth?
a pipe cleaner, a nice pink glittery pipe cleaner for my lips, and I'm going to do a closed mouth. Just going to just change that around a bit. There we go, I think that's sort of it. There we go, and I could put that there. Ooh. Or I could put it sort of to the side. Look a bit like a side pout.
Yeah,
I don't do that often, but I do like that. That's great. So they're really getting some character now, aren't they?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just from a few simple things.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my mouth. I've just had another idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to try these buttons and just see if they work. That may not work, I don't know, but put them in a bit of a... I just thought it might sort of... Does that work, do you reckon?
Yeah. It almost looks like a really teethy grin.
Ah, that's it. Yeah, it does look actually. Yeah.
It makes him look a little less
Might
spooky.
point the chin a little bit.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's looking a bit spooky.
We are missing one feature of the face still, aren't we?
Oh,
What are we
let me
missing?
think. Nose.
Nose. Yep. I'm going to use a spoon for my nose. I think that's perfect. Or maybe I'll have it so it's angling towards my mouth. Because your nose sort of moves when you move your mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can do.
Yeah.
It's true. Was it Bewitched when she used to twitch her nose? So I'm showing my age, TV show, Veronica.
Okay.
My mouth. Oh no, not mouth, sorry. Nose. I wonder what I could use. Oh, maybe a pencil sharpener?
Oh.
Don't know, I'll give it a...
Yeah, like the two little bits can kind of be nostrils.
Yeah, I'm going to move the mouth a bit further down. I think it's... Maybe, yeah, or does it work the other way up?
Yeah. So I think we're going to keep playing with our portraits. I'm just going to keep adding on lots of shiny things and lots of colours and having a play with what
Other stuff
I
use.
can use and how it changes the face. Maybe I need some...
Are you still...
Blush.
Is this still you? Is it still a self-portrait?
Yeah. I think it represents me in that I think that I love bright, colourful things. So
Yes.
yeah.
And I've noticed that I tend to choose quite sort of hard objects. I think I said that in the beginning, so I find...
Yeah,
they're
whereas
easier to
mine are all
work with.
quite, you're right, quite soft objects.
Yes.
Anyway, we would love to see what you've come up with at home. So if you can take a photograph of your work and if you can upload it into the Facebook live video comments, that would be great. Or if you're on Instagram, you can tag us at Taz Instagram. Sorry, at Tas Museum. That makes sense. At
Yes.
Tas Museum.
Yes.
Before we finish, we want to thank Kath and Alison who've been filming for us today.
Thanks, Kath.
And we look forward to seeing your creations, and we also look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 12 o'clock on our next Facebook Live Mystery Tour. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Bye.